Welcome to Fresh Start. Today we are going to do a fettuccine Alfredo made with cauliflower. No cheese, cauliflower. And we're also going to do a recipe that I love to do through the summer, fall, and winter, is sauteed kale with onion and garlic. So for our first recipe today, you're going to need 1 whole head of cauliflower. So some fun facts about cauliflower. I was reading about it that because it has the green leaves protecting it, if it did not have those leaves, it would actually be a beautiful flower. So, but you wouldn't be able to eat it, or we wouldn't enjoy it as much as we do now. So we're going to start just by trimming the cauliflower, and I will make a mess because cauliflower can get kind of messy. Okay, and I like to just cut it down the center first. And it doesn't have to be anything pretty. You can just chop. It doesn't have to be a certain size because you are going to heat this up and it is going to be pureed in a blender. So for today's recipe, it's a good idea to have a blender if you do want to do this recipe. I did this recipe at home, just kind of playing with stuff, and my husband's like, dang, you need to make that more often. So I thought it would be a great recipe to share with you. Also, if you want to try something really fun, you can cut your cauliflower into little steaks and bake them in the oven. And when they get brown on top, you can add a little barbecue sauce and Frank's sauce in a bowl. Just kind of mix it up and put it over it. Bake it again for 10 to 20 minutes on about 350 and put it on a sandwich. And it tastes like hot wings. It's like a buffalo chicken sandwich without the chicken, less calories. Right. A lot of people I used to not like cauliflower, but now I don't know, I love it, and I love playing around with it. I do a lot of soups. Anytime it calls for a cream, instead of using milk or cheeses, I always do a cauliflower. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting this in my bowl. And again, it does not have to be pretty. Just chop it up. And I told you I'd be messy. I'm hoping we make enough here that after the show's over, I'm going to chow down on some fettuccine Alfredo. Okay. Throw those away. Since this is a large head of cauliflower, I only used about 3/4 of it. So next I am going to use some almond milk, and you can get this at any grocery store here in town in McMinnville. And you're going to use about 2 cups or to where the milk is just barely covering the cauliflower. I'm going to go ahead and just add all of it. And if you have a high-speed blender, you have to be really careful putting something really hot into a blender because it will explode. You have to be really careful. All right, get that going. All right, while that's going, I'm going to clean up a little bit. So I'm going to show you a few more little things you want to add to this. So one of the fun facts about cauliflower, other than it would be a flower if it didn't have the green leaves over it as it grows, is cauliflower also helps fight cancer. It's a preventative plant for cancer, so you can use it even if you've already been diagnosed with something like cancer. This actually helps slow down cancer tumor growths. So if you have prostate, ovary, breast, it's mainly the reproductive system, that tumors from cancer, that this actually helps slow the growth of. So just a little fun fact for you. Good to know. All right, while this is boiling, I'm going to use some garlic, and I'm going to use some minced garlic. So minced garlic, I'm going to use about 2 teaspoons. If you really like it, you can use 3. So I really like it. I'm going to use 3. It's already smelling good. I'm also going to throw a little bit of nutritional yeast flakes. This you can also get at your local store. You may have heard me talk about it before. This is full of vitamin B. It's full of fiber, protein. So for someone who don't eat a lot of animal protein, this right here is the ticket. It gives you energy, plus it just gives you all types of nutrients. So I'm gonna go ahead and add, I'm just gonna cover the top. Y'all have heard me say that. So that actually equals out to about 3 teaspoons. And what this does, it gives it a cheesy flavor without the cheese, without the calories. So you're just gonna add all that together, and also you're gonna add a little bit of salt. So I'm gonna sprinkle about a teaspoon of salt to 2 teaspoons. So you're gonna let that cook for a little while. Usually 10-15 minutes, the cauliflower will start to get kind of soft, and you're gonna wanna take it off the oven or the stove once it gets really soft so that it can cool down before you put it into your blender. All right, so my favorite noodles to use with this, and you can use spaghetti noodles, you can do pasta noodles, or pasta. You're gonna use fettuccine, which is my favorite, linguine, but my favorite is fettuccine. So I've already boiled some fettuccine noodles, and the trick to that is, because fettuccine can be kind of complicated, it likes to stick to the bottom of the pan. So what I suggest you do is, if you are doing any noodles at all, especially fettuccine, is you are going to start your water first, let it boil with a little pinch of salt in there. Once it starts boiling, go ahead and add your fettuccine. And then it'll boil for about 7 minutes, and then you're gonna drain it, then put it back in the pot, not on the stove, to the side. Put a plate or a lid on that and let that fettuccine finish cooking after it's already boiled for 7 minutes. And it turns out perfect every time. Okay, so this is cooking, smelling good. So while this is cooking, I'm gonna start on the second dish just to kind of show you some things with kale. I love kale. Kale is full of nutrients, we all know. We also know that it was also used as a decoration back in the day around the salad bars. Who would have ever dreamed that we'd be eating this one day? So for the little side dish I'm gonna fix with this, I'm gonna take this apart, and you're gonna want it to be in little bite sizes. I'm gonna do a couple. Another thing I was going to tell you about cauliflower. Cauliflower is also known as a superfood. So when we hear that word, we think it's just a trick to get us to eat this food that might not taste so good to us, but it's actually a superfood. It's actually one of the top. And anytime we hear superfood, we always think green, but it's a superfood. It's in the top 5 of superfoods. And it just basically means it's full of nutrients. That's going to help you stay well. It's going to give you energy. It gives you clarity. Okay, so I'm going to do, if you're going to make this for a family of 4, you're going to use about a bundle to a bundle and a half of kale. But if you're like my family and myself, a family of 2 with my husband and I, we each can eat a bundle of this because it does shrink down quite a bit. So this is a curly kale. There's different types of kale, so you can use any kale you prefer, or you can mix it up and make it pretty like rainbow kale. And a lot of times if you see the kale in the grocery stores that's in a bag, let's stir this up, it's smelling so good. That's in the grocery store at work, the stores, they actually leave the rib in it, the rib of the kale, which makes it tough to chew. No matter how much you cook it, it's going to be tough. So that's why I always like to do my own. Just makes it a lot more pleasant and enjoyable when you have your meal. I'm going to do a few more of these. Okay. So once you get all your kale kind of pulled off into bite-sized pieces, you're going to take your knife and you're going to chop a little bit more. Just kind of do a rough chop, which just means it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be fine or small chopped. I'm going to get a little olive oil and put in the other pan I have going over here. Pour about a teaspoon. And this is smelling so good right now. I mean, I could actually get a spoon and just eat it like this. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off. Pause that. And we're going to go ahead and start our kale. So I'm going to let this cool down before you put it in a blender. Make sure it cools down. Sometimes just put it in the refrigerator just for a few minutes to give it a quick cool. All right, we're going to go ahead and put the kale in. Brush that off. Getting it all over me. I'm sure they love me here after I leave because I usually leave a mess. Okay, so I'm going to turn this back on a low because you want it, because it's going to wilt really quick. So while that's doing that, I'm going to take an onion. And we're going to do about half of an onion. So if you were using the rest of this kale, say a bundle or a bundle and a half, you would use the whole onion. And for this recipe, for the kale, I also like to use quinoa. So quinoa is the healthiest grain there is, and in fact, grain is not a grain, it's actually a sprout. So that means it still has enzymes, which anything with enzymes, especially enzymes that are alive, which just basically means it hasn't been heated or cooked and killed. So anything like that is going to fuel your body with nutrients. Remember what I said about onions in the past is when you get that teary eye when you're peeling or chopping an onion, how you want to hurry up and get it over with because you're crying, because I do it every day. So I'm going to add a little bit more onion before I tell you the story. Remember that that sting that you feel is actually a compound in the onion that helps kill cancer cells. It actually helps with inflammation in the body, but it's strongly known as a cancer compound to help fight cancer. And I'm all about that. All right, so what I've done is I've actually cut half of the onion now. And it's burning my eyes a little bit. And we'll go ahead and pop this up to medium. This way. I'm going to cover that. All right, so now I have garlic. Garlic, I love garlic. So garlic, of course, keeps away vampires. And also, it's a great antibiotic. So it's a natural antibiotic, antiseptic. So if you have a bad cold, sinus problems, it's actually been known to help those symptoms. I thought it was crazy. I had a very sore throat one year to the point it felt like I was swallowing glass. And I ate one raw, and it almost relieved it immediately. So I was blown away with how it healed my throat immediately. And of course it came back, but it wasn't as bad, it wasn't as intense. Excuse me. All right, so you're gonna chop your your garlic. Onion's getting to me. I hate when that happens. And how you can check, I hear this burning or sounding like it. There we go. Can you hear that? That's kale and onion smelling good. All right, so when you get the skin off of the garlic, a quick way to do it, you just put your knife over it and hit it a couple times, and it actually comes off really easy. So I'm going to use about 4 cloves of garlic. So I'm going to chop. Oop, that one didn't have the skin off yet. I love to juice garlic. A lot of people come in with bad colds and we do a juice called the Vampire Slayer. And what that is garlic that we juice, oranges, pineapple, apple, and ginger root, and we add a little cinnamon on top. And it's so good. And people swear by it. They come in the next day saying they feel better, their symptoms are less, they can breathe, they slept all night. So it really does work. So ginger root and garlic together in this drink create a great healing natural medication. All right, so I'm going to put all that in there. I've gotten so messy today. I'm sorry. All right, so we're going to turn this up, let it start sizzling again. I need to add a little bit more oil. I put more kale than I thought I was going to put in here, and I don't want my kale to burn. So I added about 2 teaspoons more, so a total of about 3 teaspoons of olive oil. And actually this dish right here, or this side right here, this is a friend of mine taught me this, and we just went out to the garden, we picked some kale, a few little things of garlic and onion, and we picked a lot of the spices, and we just put it in a pan and added some quinoa to it. It was amazing. So I make this periodically when I don't have anything else that I can think of to put with a dish, and it really complements the meal. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit more. I can't remember if I added any. So we're going to add about 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, while that's cooking, you're going to take your mixture, and I've already put some that's already cooled into my blender. So the mixture that you did with the cauliflower and the almond milk, the garlic, and the nutritional yeast, you're going to put it in your blender. And I always put a towel over mine just because sometimes it will try to pop up because it's hot. So. Good. All right, so the kale is looking really, really good right now. Some snuck out. So I'm going to go ahead. I've already prepared some quinoa, which I was telling you is a sprout that is treated like a grain and use it in everything. And it gives it a butter flavor. So you want to go ahead and add your quinoa, about half a cup to a cup. And this is also going to add protein and fiber. Of course, you get fiber also from the kale, but this adds a little bit more. It's just packed with protein. It's going to give you energy. You're not going to get hungry as quick for the next meal. Just super duper good for you. And sometimes if you want to, if it's near the holidays, you can throw some cranberries in with some almonds and just kind of saute it all together. It's beautiful and it tastes so good. All right, so. All right, I've already made some pasta. So here's my fettuccine. I'm gonna just got some on me. And this smells so good. I wish this was smell-o-vision so y'all could smell it. So I hope you really try it at home. It's very, very easy and it's so good. All right. So here's the sauce, if you can see it after you puree the cauliflower, and it looks just like cheese. I think that'll do it. The more the better for me. So I've got some red pepper flakes I'm going to sprinkle on top. And I'm even going to put a little pinch of basil on there. All right. So there's our fettuccine Alfredo with no cheese, no butters, and no oils. Awesome. All right, let's finish with our kale. So pretty. All right, let's start you back up a little bit. So the kale is almost done. It's so close. I'll let that go just a little bit more on high. So if you try any of these recipes, I'd love for you to share with me, you know, if your family enjoyed it or you enjoyed it. This one right here is so easy, and it looks like it took forever to make it. Like I said, I was very surprised that my husband loved it, and he's not a picky eater, but to know that that's cheese or not cheese he just couldn't believe it. All right, now we're done. So here's the kale. It's so pretty. And this could be as like a salad. So if you wanted to serve a salad, or if you didn't want to serve a salad, you wanted to do something like this, so you didn't have a whole lot of chopping to do. And especially if it's cold outside, this is great. It's a warm meal that's not too heavy. Trying to make it pretty there. Like I said, if you wanted to add some color to it, you can add cranberries, blueberries, dried ones, and some slivered almonds on top. It's beautiful. But that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, we made fettuccine Alfredo with no cheese. We made it with cauliflower, which is pretty awesome. And then we had our kale, our warm kale salad, I guess you could call it, with onions, garlic, quinoa, and a little bit of olive oil and sea salt. And that's it. There you go. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and thank you so much for tuning in to Fresh Start, and I'll see you next time.